My colleague in Washington has just mentioned about poverty, but above that, we're looking at security jobs. People in South Africa are very disillusioned. They've been disillusioned for some time. The current crisis, the so-called global crunch crisis around the world, the fact that people's cost of living are so high, food prices at rocket high prices, they can't afford the basic stable commodities that they've been used to, and they're venting their frustrations on people who themselves not too long ago were supporting them during the apartheid movement. And there's been some lingering in many communities that the former apartheid government of South Africa has got a hand in this, and right-wing elements within that have been fueling this crisis. So it's a combination of many factors which are just coming to a head at this junction.
All right, Mr. Johnson, let me continue with you. Do you think that an inept foreign policy in regard to resolving Zimbabwe's political impasse might contribute to these factors as well?
Well, on one hand, yes, you could say so. The fact that there's been a massive shift in the numbers of people who've moved from Zimbabwe to South Africa over the many months and years, and of course that's to do with poverty and extreme difficulties with the economy in Zimbabwe. But in saying that, if Zimbabweans in South Africa start going back home as a result of the violence, the fact that they don't feel safe, and they rather die at home than on a foreign land, then we may see a shift in the so-called elections that are due to come forth in Zimbabwe, where Zimbabweans who would normally have supported Tsvangirai, who had fled that country because of one reason or another, coming back would support the MDC, and that could actually top the vote and be the difference between a win or a lose with Mugabe.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Susan, I mean, to many respects, the issue about the apartheid movement, clearly there's been an influence there, but Mr. Mbeki must take responsibility. He's been lackluster. He's not actually got to the situation very quickly. In many quarters, people are very concerned. The fact that he hasn't actually walked the township, he has not been giving a message of peace, and he's decided to go elsewhere. So we would like to see Mr. Mbeki taking responsibility. We would like to see the ANC speaking to the people on the ground to take control of the situation, because it sends a wrong message. It sends a negative message. Africa is not familiar with this. This is a completely new phenomenon, one clearly imported from the West, because people have seen things like these on their television screens, and it's not very good. And I would like to see the authorities come down harshly on anyone who's been seen to have been part of this, to send the right message that we cannot tolerate this today, tomorrow, forever.
All right. Earlier this week, President Thabo Mbeki authorized the army to help quell the ongoing violence. Do you think this is the right step to take, Mr. Johnson?
It's a step in the right direction, but it's all good giving instructions. But you need a visible presence. He is the leader of that country. He's the leader of the most important group of the ANC. He's got to come down to his people. He's got to speak to them, and for them to understand that they are harming the country. You've got exports being affected. You may have investments that's meant to come to that country being siphoned elsewhere. We've got the tourism industry that may be dented as a result of this. We've got the impact of the fact that the World Cup that's due to come up in 2010. Who knows? We may have tourists deciding not to take part, not to attend. It's not correct. It's not right, and it's not very good for Africa in general. Thank you.
My colleague.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, the free market economy which is being spoken about, clearly, it's not been the formula of choice for a lot of our African countries, and South Africa included. Some of these countries have been forced into it. It's been the only means by which they can actually get loans from the World Bank or the IMF. It's a formula which has been thrusted on them. So they do not have a choice. If they had a choice, they would have selected other options. Now, what we have is the ramifications of that choice. The fact that it hasn't actually worked on the ground, the fact that it hasn't filtered down to the masses, the fact that poverty is still a major issue, and there's massive inequality. Now, we can't escape from that, but what we can do is recognize that the South African government is trying to do something about it. Be it that their hands are tied, be it that they have other commitments elsewhere, be it that does not allow them to improve and increase their magnitude as they would otherwise like to.